partisan political organization for women and men that encourages informed and active participation in government. Tonight we'll be learning more about the candidates' views in order for you to become a more informed voter. Before introducing the candidates, I'd like to provide some information about the city and go over the rules for tonight's forum. The candidates receive them ahead of time. I also have some instructions for you in the audience. Voter registration for the August 27th primary ended on July 29th. The city of St. Pete has chosen not to conduct early voting, but mail ballots are available as in previous elections. In the primary, citywide voters may cast their votes in the mayoral race. However, only voters residing in districts 4, 6, and 8 may vote in their respective council district races. All voters in the primary will also be voting on a referendum question regarding the lands. For mayoral candidates, as well as each of the council races, the names of the two candidates receiving the most votes will be placed on the November 5th general election ballot to be voted at large. These elections are all nonpartisan. The city of St. Petersburg is the fourth largest city in the state of Florida, with a population of 247,673 in 2011. It operates under a strong mayor form of government with an elected city council. The mayor is responsible for running the daily affairs of the city and receives an annual salary of $158,355. The city council has a chair and a vice chair and must approve city policies, city budget, and the mayor's choices for city administrator and city attorney. The city council consists of 8 members, one of each of the city's election districts. Their annual salary is $38,914. The mayor and the council members serve 4-year terms of office and are limited to 2 consecutive terms. Now, the first 50 minutes of the forum tonight will be dedicated to the mayoral candidates. Paul Congeni and Anthony Cates were invited, but chose not to attend. We'll transition directly then into the second segment of our forum, dedicated to candidates running for Council 4 district. Candidates have drawn for the order of seating. 1 minute will be allowed for replies to audience written questions that I will pose to the candidates. If a question happens to be directed to a single, Thank you. Okay, I'm going to repeat the format so that candidate Kriseman can hear. 1 minute will be allowed for audience written questions. And if a question happens to be directed to a single candidate, the other candidates may choose to respond and they will have 30 seconds. There will be no opening remarks, but there will be 1.5 minutes for closing remarks. The views of the candidates do not represent the view of the league or the sponsoring organization tonight necessarily. Please turn off your cell phones. We ask that you hold your applause until after the closing statements. Audio and videotaping of this forum tonight is prohibited without the express permission of the League of Women Voters. Now, if any of you still have questions, please submit we have one of our league members is holding up cards. Please get a card and get your questions in. If your questions is not answered tonight, it may be because we simply ran out of time for all the questions. We use as many as we can, but we encourage you to stay afterwards and ask the candidates your question if it does not get answered directly in the forum tonight. My thanks to my colleagues Jim Jackson, Karen Knopp, Paul Whithouse, John Mason, Jack McCullough, and Caroline Bloodworth, who are assisting with questions tonight. Your presence here as candidates and members of the audience shows that you share in the league's goal to become more informed and active in the political process. As you can see here tonight, men also make valuable contributions as members of the league and have since 1974. We invite you to join us in our work. Sign up today. We have Nancy Tate back there with membership information for you. And so now, let's sit back and get started. The candidates running for mayor in the St. Petersburg primary are, starting from here, Bill Foster, Steve Kriseman, and Rick. No, I'm sorry. Excuse me, Rick. And Kathleen Ford. Okay. All right. We will start. Our first question will be directed to candidate Foster. Can you break down or discuss where your campaign funding comes from?
Well, that's a great question. Most of my campaign funding, you'll see a St. Petersburg address. It's coming from many members of the community, hundreds and hundreds of people that have stepped up from the city of St. Petersburg to support my candidacy. I also have received some very nice funding from police unions throughout the state of Florida, and so well supported by the police officers in the state of Florida, Fraternal Order of Police, Police Benevolent Association. So those are as a block, those are probably my main sources of funds. They're either St. Pete or Pinellas County residents predominantly, or police and firefighters. I've also received checks from firefighters as well. So the entire realm of the public safety community is supporting my candidacy.
Thank you. Candidate Kriseman.
Thank you. I'm honored by the outpouring of support that I've received for this campaign. Residents who reached into their pockets and given as much as $500 and as much as $5. And the amounts are equally important for each of them because it meant something to them to support me, and it means something to me to have their support. I also have been honored to have been supported by a number of organizations, including the AFL-CIO, and the electrical workers, and plumbers and pipe fitters, and groups such as like that. And I've had support from folks around the state, people that know me personally or have served with me during my time in the legislature, that know my values and beliefs and what I stand for.
Candidate Ford. Thank you. I am just truly grateful for all of the donations that I have received from the many folks here in St. Petersburg and somewhat in Pinellas County. It is just so heartwarming to receive these donations in these tough times where I know every penny counts. And as many of you all know, I've always been a grassroots campaign, and that's what my campaign represents, and I am very grateful for all the men and women and the small companies that have been able to donate some significant amounts. To me, they're very significant, and for all of the other in-kind donations too, where folks have opened up their homes and allowed me the opportunity to get to know some of you better. And I welcome anybody else who would like to donate to our campaign. You can go online, or you can send in a check to the Kathleen Ford campaign. Again, I thank you all for your support. Thank you. Now this question will start with candidate Kriseman. With all the talk nowadays about Midtown, what would you do to ensure that other neighborhoods or areas of the city receive their fair share?
You know, during the time that I served on council, I represented West St. Petersburg. And for those of you who are familiar with West St. Pete, we always used to think of ourselves as the Wild Wild West and the part of the city that was always forgotten. And I was really proud of what we were able to accomplish during the 6 years that I was on council, and how, working with the mayor, we were able to bring a lot of infrastructural needs and things to that area that hadn't happened. So I understand what it's like to live in an area of the city that feels forgotten and feels left out. And I think that's something that's been problematic in the last several years. We've done a great job of taking care of downtown, but we haven't spread the wealth equally among all the communities and all the neighborhoods throughout the city. And it's equally important, if we're going to have strong neighborhoods, vibrant neighborhoods, that our focus extend beyond the downtown core. That's what I plan to do.
Thank you. Candidate Ford. You know, there is a lot of discussion about Midtown, but let me share with you a few important points, and that is, under this current mayor and administration, They attempted to close Jenny Hall Pool. Midtown lost its grocery store. And these are really significant things for that part of our city. And that's important that we make sure everybody gets their fair share. But I will tell you, I'm used to working with everybody and across the lines in order to really address neighborhood needs. I started out with a cocaine house across the street from me in 1987 in Old Northeast. And thankfully, we were able to put together some neighborhood improvements and begin the neighborhood planning process so that we could restore that neighborhood. And then I was asked to help Bartlett Park and the other neighborhoods. And I'm so proud of our efforts there that we also then took to the business districts, which really had an impact on bringing up all of our neighborhoods so that they were all strong neighborhoods. It's been slipping. It's time to readdress and recommit to our neighborhoods here in St. Petersburg, all of our neighborhoods. Thank you. Kennedy Foster.
Well, neighborhood revitalization requires us to focus on the details, of every city service that we provide, from parks and recreation to codes, to law enforcement, to firefighting, with rec centers. We look at Roberts and see how nice this is. It's all in the details. You don't need a neighborhood association, although I appreciate Harris Park, I appreciate Riviera Bay and Allendale and many of the associations that are here. If you are an association, you need a neighborhood plan, we're going to help you. We're going to address your needs. But one of the reasons why I formed the Community Services Department is that if you're a neighborhood or an individual citizen, you all have access to the same great service, if there is a need, whether it's a crime prevention need where we need to do crime prevention through environmental design, if it's a stormwater issue, if it's a lighting issue, all of these things can be addressed under this department that I call the Nike department. Why do I call it Nike? Because their whole mission is to just do it.
Thank you. Now, let's shift gears. What specifically, at this time we'll start with candidate 4. What specifically do you think the city should be doing to encourage small business and grow our economy, enabling our citizens to have a livable wage? Well, I think that's a really important issue as we've seen the global market change and we've seen the loss of 3 million manufacturing jobs in the United States. It is important to look at that. Certainly we can make permitting easier. That is still a problem for any small business attempting to get started here in the city of St. Pete. Like it or not, it still has not been addressed. We need to look at that. We need to make sure that we are educating our small businesses about the opportunities that are available through the enterprise zone, through the SBA, and help them with our existing resources that we have. We have some retired executives at SCORE who are able to assist small businesses in developing their business plan. And I think we can do those sorts of things, leverage what we have within our own community to help businesses grow. The other thing is the regulation we have. Is it reasonable? Is it necessary? You know, government is good at doing what government does, but I don't think government is good at running a business. So I think we have to remember that. Let's figure out what regulations are needed. If they're not needed, get rid of them. And let's not be a barrier to small businesses. Thank you. Candidate 4. Foster, excuse me. Let's go this way.
I love to hear rhetoric during a campaign. It must be a long time since this board was at City Hall. We have addressed a lot of the permitting issues and the impediments to growth that we've seen with the issuance of a permit from this idea that the city is a partner. And it is our job to help a small business from the issuance of the permit to the CO. We've implemented an online permitting process. I make sure that whether you're a small business, medium, or large-sized business, that we have no impediment to your development and growth. One of the reasons why I created the Greenhouse, which is this great partnership and synergy between the St. Petersburg Area Chamber of Commerce, St. Pete College, Eckerd College, USF St. Pete, SBA. One of the reasons why we have these great relationships with SCORE and all of that is so all of these people can be under the same roof and work on all things business. If you want to start a business, if you want to grow a business from 10 to 15, if you want to relocate a business or retain business, it's your one-stop shop for all things small and large businesses in St. Petersburg.
Thank you. Candidate Kriseman.
Thank you. And I'm going to make a reference to Midtown use. I was walking through Midtown this weekend, and this is an example of, I think, a problem we've got. There was a small business right on 22nd, and I walked in and I asked the owner, has anyone from the city ever come talk to you to find out what you need? What can help you survive and be successful? And his answer to me was, no one's ever come by here. And then he started telling me about the difficult time he was having, even promoting his business because codes was on it. We have to start finding a way to yes. It's too easy for us to find a way to no as a city, and that's what we do with small businesses, is we are oftentimes worried no, and we need to get to yes. The other thing that we need to do is we have a Dome Industrial area where we've done a great job of putting property together, but we keep waiting for that 500-person employer instead of taking 10 employers who will hire 50 people each. I'd rather have them than that big one, because if we lose that 500, we feel it. If we lose one of those 10, it doesn't destroy our economy.
Thank you. Candidate Ford? I started with the answer, but if you'll let me continue, I'd be happy. I'm sorry. I got so excited about all of your responses. We're back in the private sector, so I know about how it is to work with government. All right. Recently there was a shooting at Lansing Park, just 2 weeks ago, which seems to concern everybody here. How will you be involved in gun control?
Well, let me first say...
Gun control action.
Yeah, well, first of all, the state legislature, and Mr. Kriseman knows all about what happens in Tallahassee, but the state legislature has prohibited local governments from regulating guns. I am a mayor against illegal guns. Now, I have not signed up with the Bloomberg Menino Act. I am a mayor against illegal guns. One of the things we've done to target illegal guns is a gun bounty program that has been very successful in getting illegal guns off the streets, guns used in the commissions of crime. But I think we need to do a lot more with education. We need to do a lot more requiring people to lock up their guns. Make sure that we have a lot of education when it comes to the safety of handguns. But right now, all of that is in the hands of the legislature. They are regulating the city's ability to regulate any guns.
Thank you. Candidate Kriseman.
Thank you. First off, I would sign that proclamation for the mayors against illegal handguns. I think it's important for the leader of our city to send a message to the entire community that illegal ownership of guns is not acceptable. We have no problem with people who legally own a weapon under the Second Amendment. But we do have problems with people illegally owning it, and I don't think, I have no problem with signing that proclamation. Secondly, I had a bill that would have allowed our counties in the city to opt out of that bill that Mr. Foster was referring to. And quite frankly, it would have been nice to have had support from our mayor when I brought that bill forward before our delegation. I will go to Tallahassee and I will lobby to try and change the law to give us the authority to control our own destiny when it comes to the use of weapons.
Thank you. Candidate Ford. I think we need to do a little bit harder work with ATF. We have a federal bureau, the Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and explosives, and I think we need to make a focused effort. When I have folks in some of our neighborhoods saying, hey look, every 12-year-old guy knows about that van down there where they're selling guns. If the 12-year-olds know about it, why don't we know about it? And more importantly, why aren't we doing something about it? And I think we in the city of St. Petersburg can make a better focused effort on getting the illegal guns off the street. I agree with Mr. Kriseman that no one thinks that anybody should be allowed to have illegal guns. But I respectfully disagree that the action being taken today is in any way, shape, or form effective. Thank you. All right. This question will be started with candidate Kriseman. What is your approach to public or mass transportation improvement?
I served on the Pinellas County MPO for 6 years, the Metropolitan Planning Organization, which is the body that oversees transportation for the county. And it was during that time that I really learned a lot about the importance of mass transit and its impact, not only on the quality of life in the community, but on economic development, because it can be such an economic driver. So I am supportive of the county's initiative, which is known as Green Light Pinellas, to try and fund and improve public transportation, whether it's in the form of light rail, bus rapid transit, increased trolley service and bus service, improved pedestrian and bicycle walkways, or even water taxis. If we're going to be able to compete with Charlotte and Austin and other communities around the country, we have to do a better job when it comes to public transportation, and it will pay for itself through economic development efforts.
Thank you. Candidate Ford. Thank you. I too served on the county's Metropolitan Planning Organization, which is the transportation planning board for Pinellas County. And I have to share with you, I had some concerns based on my experience there of folks at the county level telling us what we needed here in the city level. And so I'm in favor of a vote on what we should do funding mass transit, but I have some real concerns about the capital costs, the operating costs, maintenance costs, and the replacement costs because of the density that we have here in Pinellas County. We are not Chicago, we are not New York City, we are not LA. And thank goodness we're not. I love those places to visit, but we have a real quality of life. And I think that any rail initiative of any sort should be tied with a clear understanding of what our long-term plan is. And I haven't heard it because the long-term plan should also include water. And we can't grow St. Pete unless we also grow the water. And it's not there, folks. I think it's very irresponsible. So those two should be tied. I favor a vote on it, but I have some huge concerns about how that money is spent. Thank you. Candidate Foster.
Well, one of the beauties of this is, as mayor of the city of St. Petersburg, I've been involved in really formulating that deep-order plan, working with my staff, Joe Kavicki and Jeff Danner with the city of St. Pete, City Council, and others. And I support this deep-order plan, Tampa Bay transportation plan, the alternatives analysis that is this swath from Hillsborough County to downtown St. Petersburg and over to the city of Clearwater. I support Green Light Pinellas. I think that is something that, as it's on the ballot, and as people learn more about the moving of people and the importance that if you're not growing, you're dying, the importance of moving a lot of people from point A to point B, it is important. Don't get hung up on the rail component, because over 60% of this will involve some type of bus rapid transit, some type of rubberized wheel that can go off of this alternatives analysis north-south swath into the community. So this is in lieu of your PSTA ad valorem tax. It's a swap. It's a good thing.
Thank you. All right. This time we'll start with candidate Ford. Recently, it was proposed that nonprofit organizations pay a fire fee based on the size of their properties. How do you feel about that idea? Well, I was opposed to the raising of the millage rate and the additional fees. We have a significant amount of money still in our city reserves, and if we were to use those wisely and not waste money, for example, spending $3.8 million on a lens design where folks, you will be voting for that on August 27th if you have not already put in your ballot, but $3.8 million on something that a lot of folks really did not like, I think is so irresponsible. You know, South Pasadena's whole entire city budget is $4 million. So I think we've got to be careful about how we spend the money, and when we know the public is going to have a feeling about it, a big feeling about it, we got to make sure they're involved, and that means a vote, folks. And that's what I am really concerned about here, is that we really need to make sure we're spending our money wisely. There was no need for that fire fee, and I just think it's unfair. Thank you. Candidate Foster.
Well, it's funny, you can ask a question about the fire fee and then talk about the lens. Mrs. Ford would propose that you spend $1.5 million per year, every year, on a subsidy for a retail model that absolutely doesn't work. That is a waste of money. So the fire-based fee was something that at the time I felt was equitable across the board, that everybody would pay a little bit. It was $1 a week. And it would, those properties that used sufficient numbers of fire services that were off the tax rolls that paid absolutely nothing, I thought there was an inequity in that. It didn't pass the city council for the next 4 years that I'm mayor. I will not bring it back up. And right now, I think that we have remedied the budgetary issues dealing with police and fire. And we're not going to waste money subsidizing failed enterprises on the pier.
Thank you. Candidate Kriseman.
Thank you. I've always had tremendous respect for our firefighters and police officers, public safety in general. It really hit home a lot closer in 2008 when my house burned down. And it was our firefighters who were able to get my 2 dogs out of the house so that they didn't die in the house. We got to say goodbye to them. That's something that when we pay our property taxes every year, we should pay for them. And to ask us to pay an additional fee, a special fee on top of that, I thought was a huge mistake. And then adding to the mistake was the concept of leaning the home. If you couldn't afford to pay for it, so now you've got to lean on your home until you sell it. And that to me, I thought was really headed in the wrong direction. Something I did not support.
Thank you. Candidate Ford. We'll start. Be happy to talk some more. We'll give you a question. About that spending money. We're going to start with you. How would you reform the red light camera project?
I would get rid of it altogether. I think that there's been a real problem with its implementation, and a lot of folks may not realize that there's a University of California professor who developed the formula that's used by the whole traffic engineering department for traffic flow. And that equation that's used for the yellow light was never intended to be used for anybody who is turning on a yellow. And I won't go into the physics formula. Let me say that that's the flawed basis from which we have all the problems with our red light camera program. And when the city of St. Petersburg knows that there's a problem with one of its lights that unfairly caused folks to have a ticket, I just think it's reprehensible that those folks didn't have those fees returned, which neither Mr. Foster refused to do. So I would get rid of it.
Thank you. Candidate Foster.
Well, I'm a firm believer in the traffic safety program. I think that the evidence is clear. Red light running crashes are down 25%, reduction of red light running injury crashes down 39%, reduction in rear end crashes down 15%. When you think about how it modifies distracted drivers, modifies dangerous behavior, this program does work. I don't like them, I hate them, I wish people didn't run red lights, but they do. Over 90% of the people that get them on the first time never get another one. Why? Because it's modified, distracted, dangerous behavior. So it has modified my behavior. I anticipate yellow lights. I stop. I read the Florida Driver's Handbook. Why? Because you know what? You are supposed to stop before you make a right-hand turn. That's what the book says. We let you go 12 miles an hour. But I would encourage people to read the Florida Driver's Handbook, get off your cell phones, quit texting, and pay attention to the lights.
Candidate Kriseman.
Thank you. I have been pretty consistent on this issue. Well, I've been very consistent on this issue. To me, it's always been about safety. And I know the Times had an article the other day about this issue. And there's reports to say both. But in my opinion, we saved one life because we had a red light camera up and it changed someone's behavior. If somebody doesn't run a red light, whether it's your children or grandchildren or it's my daughter who's now driving, to me it's worth it. One life for a red light camera. The law is very clear. You're not supposed to run red lights. If you don't run a red light, you don't get a ticket. I don't care about the revenue. I could care less about it. If it works, the revenue goes away. So, and that's what I'm hoping for, is that we get no revenue out of it. Because that means nobody's running red lights anymore, and we're a lot safer as a community.
Thank you. All right. This question will be... I would be happy to answer that again, too. She started with that question. This question will begin with candidate Foster. With Detroit recently having gone bankrupt, what do you think we should do or should be done to prevent St. Petersburg from going that same way?
Wow.
I mean, St. Petersburg is doing great. We hopefully will pass a roughly $213 million budget without increasing millage rates. Our pensions are well-funded and actuarially sound. We have pay-as-you-go with pensions and health insurance costs. Those are big elements that I think we need to continue to pay attention to. Post-employee benefits and pension costs, you will always pay very close attention to. Those costs that are ongoing for the life of a retiree. Other than that, St. Petersburg is in terrific shape. We're not Jacksonville, we're not Detroit, and anyone that says we are headed down that path is Chicken Little. The sky is not falling, nothing close to it. We're doing very well.
Thank you. Candidate Kriseman.
You know, to me, the key to our success and to avoiding bankruptcy is growth, and it's jobs, creating jobs, and bringing businesses to this community and taking the ones that we have here and helping them succeed. We have opportunities that we haven't really taken advantage of right yet, whether it's marine sciences and partnering more with USF and with Eckerd College, or it's health sciences and creating greater partnerships with All Children's Hospital and Johns Hopkins and Bayfront and St. Anthony's. We've got those opportunities. I would like to personally see us take our Dome Industrial area and create a manufacturing hub of green technologies, whether it's LED lighting or battery or solar panels. I think we haven't taken advantage of that. I want somebody on my staff, full-time, whose sole focus is to create green jobs. So I don't see us going in that direction as long as we are focused on moving forward as a community together.
Thank you. Candidate Ford.
Thank you. I think we're in better shape than Detroit was, but we do have to be mindful of the unfunded pension liability. And for a while, we were at 100% funding, but we slipped. And I don't know, Bill, if you're telling me now we're back up to 100% or not, but there was a gap last couple of fiscal years, and there still is a pension employment benefit of roughly $166 million that we're paying as you go, and then under Mr. Baker, they stopped offering that particular benefit. And I think this is something we will have to continue to attend to, because we all know what happened with the downturn in the economy. We suddenly lost the value of our significant investments in our homes, and that's where we saw a tremendous drop in revenues to the city. I think we really need to work at collecting the monies that are still owed. You know, if I pay all my taxes, why isn't Mr. Foster collecting it from everybody who owes it in the other utilities and fees? And there's about $1 million there that hasn't been collected. So I think we have to stay on top of those revenues that are owed and collect them.
Thank you. Now, this question will be directed first at candidate Kriseman. Please describe your approach to community policing.
You know, and I've talked a lot on this campaign trail about the fact that I think we need to go back to a more traditional community policing than we have now. We've got kind of a hybrid version of community policing. And what I envision and what I see, and I'm not an expert on police, so I'm certainly going to give great deference to my chief, whoever that might be. But it's where there's more of a closer relationship between the officer and the neighborhood. There's a trust that develops because of that relationship, and a bond that develops so that when a crime occurs, you feel safe speaking to your officer about what you've observed, and there isn't a hesitancy to do that. And I think that's a problem that's not happening right now. So I think we need to take a look at the way we're running it and go back to a more traditional version where there are more officers assigned to neighborhoods so everyone has a better grasp of who their officer is.
Thank you. Candidate Ford.
Thank you. You know, when I was a neighborhood association president and a crime watch coordinator, and then I'm actually a block captain in my neighborhood, I know what it used to be, and what it used to be is not what we have now. We can't even get the statistics for our neighborhood, and that's what I hear from other neighborhoods. And there was a time when our neighborhood got together and donated funds so that we could buy our community police officer a bike to go around our neighborhood. And our officer came and knew what was going on in the neighborhood. Didn't just come in every month to give a report, but they were in the community. Now, there's some officers who liked it, and I understand that. Some folks felt like it was social work, didn't really like it. But that's a matter of matching personnel with the job. There were officers who were very good, and they're still doing, to some extent, that same community policing. However, there is a difference, and what it takes is leadership. And frankly, that's what's lacking from the top. If we're committed to do it, we can do it.
Thank you. Candidate Forster.
Well, I love hearing from people that have absolutely no idea about the concept of the relationships with community policing, and which unit would you take away to put more traditional community policing or going backwards? There are neighborhood presidents in this room, and crime watch presidents in this room that know that community policing is alive and well in the city of St. Petersburg. It's about relationships, but it's not only going after the crime itself, but it's prevention, it's proactive. It's going after the symptoms of crime, the causes of crime. It's using our sector officers and community police officers in association with codes, parks and recreation, zoning, all of these other city departments, sanitation. It could be a vacant lot, it could be an overgrown alley, it could be a lot of these things where if you just tackle these symptoms of crimes, you can prevent the crime. So, we have sector officers, CODA, all of these other department with agencies, things that work together, and that's community policing.
All right, we have time for one last question before we go into your closing remarks. It's going to be this one. We will start with candidate Ford. Please comment on your views on the lens. What if it's defeated? What would you suggest next?
I heard a few laughs out there. As many of you all know, I represented the folks who signed a petition who wanted a vote on the inverted pyramid. That is a significant structure out there. It's structurally sound. Its foundation is structurally sound. It's 78,000 square feet of commercial space. And I've got a little picture of what could be done. Now, I think if the lens is defeated, as you know, that's on the ballot. You vote yes to stop the lens contract, or you vote no to build the lens. So if you vote yes to stop the lens, and that means 828, I guess, kicks in. But I think really what needs to then happen is ask the voters, what do you want to do about the structurally sound inverted pyramid? I'd like that to be the next vote. And I think what would be the most responsible thing is to have a request for proposals rather than a request for qualifications, and find out what we could do for that same $50 million. Because this could be done for $50 million. And the fact that the city mismanages its assets should not be used as an excuse to demolish it.
Thank you.
Well, I got to hand it to Mrs. Ford. She's been very consistent for the past couple of years when it came to saving this inverted pyramid. Mr. Kriseman took a poll and all of a sudden became stop the lens. But I agree with Mrs. Ford that we should have this on the ballot, that it should be voted upon. You don't ignore 20,000 petition signatures. And had Mrs. Ford not botched the question or the signature selection process, we would have voted on this in November of last year. But we didn't get a chance to. I asked City Council to put it on the ballot. They voted 6-2 no. Where do we go from here? In the event the lens isn't built, I've already assembled an 828 lens. August 28th, that's the day after the vote. And in the event that we are not allowed to build the lens, we will have a process for the design and selection in place of a St. Petersburg pier. Having no pier is not an option. So we will have a pier. We will be well on the road to designing and selecting a new pier. And I thank you for voting on the 27th.
Thank you. Candidate Kriseman.
Thank you. Mr. Foster is right. Mrs. Ford has been very consistent on this issue. So Mr. Foster, I'm not sure if he's for it or he's against it because it seems to change fairly frequently. I've been consistent when asked, certainly from the time I first announced I was running, that I did not like the lens design and I didn't support it. But as far as making a public statement, it's not leadership to just be against something. When I made my public statement, and I was the first one to do this, to say, I'm against the design, and here's what we do to go forward if the voters also are against that design. That was made at the same time, because as I say, it's easy to be against something, but you have to have a way forward. And with the way I proposed, we can have something built and still get public input by the end of 2015.
Thank you. Now we're going to give each candidate a minute and a half for closing remarks. And we will start with candidate Foster.
Well, thank you all for taking the time out of your busy schedules this evening to come out and listen to us. The last 3.5 years were challenging, and it was my responsibility not to be emotional, but to be a steward of your dollars and to navigate the city through the worst recession that we've ever seen. And to create environments that would create or cause people to want to invest in your city. We're on track to $500 million in new development, new construction in this city of St. Petersburg. Outside money, outside investors that have decided that St. Pete is the place to be. St. Pete is where it's happening. And there's a great vibe in the city of St. Petersburg from the art and cultural community, where St. Petersburg is number one, to public safety, to all of the amenities that we provide. St. Pete is happening. Just look around. Look around. It's been an honor to be your mayor. You know, I don't want to bring partisan politics to City Hall. There's no red and blue or R&D in how you fill a pothole. How you provide essential need city services. Now, Mr. Kriseman will tell you probably in his closing that he left Tallahassee because of the partisan victory. And we're in Tallahassee, he couldn't get anything done because of the partisan victory. And yet, over $30-some thousand is being donated to his campaign in kind from the state Democratic Party. He's got to bring his own partisan politics to the mayor's office. So this has been it's been a wonderful ride in the city of St. Petersburg. I would appreciate your vote on August 27th, and let's lead the city forward and build on our successes that you can look around and see. Thank you.
Thank you. Please hold our applause till everybody's finished. Thank you. Candidate Kriseman.
Well, thank you all for coming here tonight. This is an important election, and I really appreciate you all being here to give views of all of us. And I thank my opponents for being here tonight also, because I think it's important in making your decisions that you have an opportunity to listen to what we have to say and what our vision is, and how we anticipate and how we want to move this city forward. Because this election to me is really about leadership. It's about vision. It's about someone who can bring the community together. They can be proactive and innovative and move the city forward. And it's somebody who's willing to listen, to learn, and to lead. You know, I served for 6 years on council, and during that time, Rick Baker was the mayor, and he's a Republican and I'm a Democrat. But we didn't care what party we were on. We didn't care what things were different between us. What we cared about was the city. And we cared about moving the city forward. We also didn't care who got credit for the ideas. Because to us, if we moved forward, if we did something that was great, we all got credit because it was great for the city. And that's the way we approached it, and that's the way I'll approach it as your mayor. We have big challenges facing us, but we can't forget about the little issues also. The public safety, public schools, our neighborhoods, and creating jobs. These are things that we have to do. And being the mayor isn't about maintaining the status quo, and it isn't about just being against things. It is about vision, and it is about leadership, and it's about bringing the community together. Because together, we are much more powerful, and we can get much more accomplished.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Candidate Ford.
Thank you, just so I can see you all. Thank you, Judy, and thank you, League of Women Voters, for giving us this opportunity. You know, that's really what we like. We like to get out, see folks, so that you can have an opportunity to get to know us and we get to know you. Now, you all probably remember that I started out in the neighborhoods. That's what I'm passionate about, and that's what makes up the most of this city. And that, frankly, is what I've seen slipping with all the focus on downtown. The focus on challenges with Midtown that really aren't addressed. And I think it's time to get back to those basics. We've seen that slipping. We need to give hope back to those residents, those hardworking folks who are going day in, day out, trying to make their neighborhoods better. We've got to do better than having a police department that's going through neighborhoods without headlamps on in their cars in the middle of the night. We need to restore the trust in our neighborhoods where they feel like they're not being heard in the police department. And I think it's very important that we really look at what those barriers are in business. You're right, Mr. Foster, I've not been at City Hall, but I do represent businesses who have to deal with City Hall. And folks, it's not easy for them. So I know that there are things that we can do better from the city of St. Petersburg, and I'm committed to that because I know those barriers to business really make a difference to business. The other thing is that I think this city can really have an impact with children. They are our future. And I'm committed to making sure that we do all the city can do with pre-BK education for our kids so they're ready to go to school. I ask for your vote on August 27th.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here tonight and for sharing your views. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Now we have candidates running for City Council seat District 4. Now, any of you in our audience who have questions for our City Council members, please get those questions in and turned into our lead folks.